Hi everyone, quite a while ago we saw some information about the iPhone 14, the new generation of what Apple is producing, and there were some adjustments in the time as well. However, what if I told you that the first one basically got one thing about it correct? That there is actually a cutout, because now we got some confirmation for what the model will actually look like. There are some leaks about it, and of course, is there a design change? Well, yeah, apart from the cutout, there really isn't. Anyway, let's jump into what we learned about, of course, the iPhone 14 Pro, Pro Max, and all the other ones. Let's discuss. Now, of course, when it comes to, of course, the iPhone 14 and the iPhone 14 Max, which is basically the regular version, where the Max replaces, of course, the Mini itself, because the Mini will not be continued for the iPhone 14 series. You will see that they both share a lot of similarity between what you already have when it comes to the iPhone 13. Yes, you still have the camera bump and everything like that, and you do not have that sandwich style when it comes to the frame and of course the glass, basically like the iPhone 4. This is not a thing you will see with any of the iPhone 14s. It's basically an iPhone 13. The biggest change, however, is to the Pro series. There is a difference here. Compared to, of course, the iPhone 14, where you still have that notch like the iPhone 13, the iPhone 14 Pro and Pro Max will not actually have a notch. They will have not one but two cutouts. Okay, I like the design. On my main channel, Concept Creator, I love designing phones, and that's a terrible idea. It looks weird, it looks off-centered because of it, and yes, in real life you won't notice it as much, but as someone who has somewhat of an OCD type, I don't like that. It looks odd, and it also looks far larger. Again, what I will have to say, I do not like notches. I think they are ugly. I don't think a cutout is nice as well. With that being said, however, if you do go for a notch, I think Apple did it really well with the iPhone 12. Better than the 13. Now let me explain. With the design that you had on the iPhone 12 and somewhat on the iPhone 13, it felt like more screen. It felt like you got more screen out of it. With some smaller notches that you saw with LG and so on, it felt like a cut in the screen. This is hard to explain, but in terms of design perspective, that's how I look at that design of the iPhone 12 and iPhone 13 somewhat as well, where it doesn't feel like it's something where it cuts in the screen, but more like you get extra of it. Mainly because of the curves in that system and just making it look a little bit more symmetrical, and just it made sense. And in terms of designer, it just looks more like you get an extra screen, if that makes sense. But that is something that I still think looks better than something we have double cutouts. So you get a circular cutout and a pill cutout. That's weird, as stated again. This of course holds your Face ID and of course your front camera as well. And while the leaks started with of course having this one single camera and then the sensors for the Face ID would be behind the display, it's not the case anymore. And yes, the pill cutout shape will hold some information here as well for of course working with your Face ID. Again though, there isn't much difference when it comes to what you are seeing for the iPhone 14, especially in design. Again, it looks very similar. It's a very similar package, and I don't think there is much to talk about here. However, something that is interesting, when you normally look at what you get with the iPhone generation that is following up, you of course get the new chip inside. This also isn't the case for the iPhone 14 and the 14 Max. They were actually retained last year, well, this year's chip. So basically what you currently get in the iPhone 13. I think that's a weird choice, but at the end I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing anyway, because these chips inside of course Apple devices work well. Let's not ignore that, and I think overall what they do with that chip and optimizing their software with that chip works well. I don't think you will have a bad experience owning either of them if you already own an Apple. With that being said, the question is, will they do something with the price comparison here? Will they cut down the price? Because that could be then interesting for a lot of people who want that cheaper kind of iPhone experience and think, I do want to have the latest one, but the chip can still be from last year, because again, in experience you won't notice much difference. Anyway, let me know what you think about the iPhone 14, what you think about the leaks itself. Do you like the design, or would you rather have of course the sandwich design that we saw from John Prosser combined with Ian of course, who made those renders? For myself, I don't necessarily like that. I wanted to actually do a redesign for it for my main channel, but seeing how we got this now, it makes no sense anymore. but I might do it as an iPhone 15 kind of concept. We'll have to wait and see what I do with that one. Either way, I don't think that one worked that well either, because the camera was somewhat flush with the back itself, and therefore the sensor and of course the flash, that made no sense to me. It looked weird and it looks out of place. I think a bump is definitely needed, but you should just adjust it a little bit in terms of how it looks. Either way, again, let me know what you think about the iPhone 14 leaks, and of course what you think about the design changes, the notch, and of course about getting last year's CPU in the iPhone 14 and the 14 Max. Either way, have a good one and talk to you guys in the next.